must be lucky to film things because it's been a little dreary today. Not yesterday, it was snowing. I can't complain. I love the fact that our soil dries out so quick because this place was an absolute mud hole yesterday, and it's this really sticky adobe mud. Anyway, you can come here for geography, I know. Jeremy here, Jeeps Unlimited Parts Breakers, 303-666-9020. Listing a frame that I normally don't list frames that are not top notch when it comes to TJs because they're so hard to get. It doesn't mean we don't sell them like this occasionally, and usually what happens, somebody will call and I'll, in this case, say, hey, yeah, I actually do have one, but it's just not what I would call my premier quality as far as rust is concerned. So majority of this frame, this is a 9702 6-cylinder frame. I put up a 4-cylinder yesterday. We really want to see the quality difference on just overall. That would be one you could go back in our YouTube channel and take a look at that, because that one really is a good representation of the last 20 years. Yes, they are getting harder and harder every year to get, even as the months go by sometimes. So especially finding them without rust. This is a nice frame. I would say 90% of it is pretty dang clean. As far as a beautified frame, well, none of them are beautified since we clean them up other than washing them. We usually hit them with 4,500 PSI and some heat. And that usually takes care of any of the grime or anything on it. And if there's any weaknesses, it pushes through, which is exactly what happened here. We scope our frames when we buy them. So there's a little bit of an iffy just because it had a little bit more dirt in it than I like to see, which just means somebody didn't really clean the thing out very often. We don't use salt on our roads. So that's one of the reasons that a frame like this, because if it had been in a salty area, there'd be nothing left of it. But nonetheless, it is what it is. So the black paint that's left on it, which isn't a lot, but there is still several places, is all the factory paint from original. So we'll just start here in the middle. We had a belly pan on it when I sent out a short video earlier of it, and that one came right off. The bolts are, I don't know where they went to, but they're around here somewhere. So the threads are good. You don't have to worry about extracting. That's an area that loves to break, snap off, especially if they're rusty at all. And really, there's no material lost here either. I mean, you got a little bit of scaling there. A lot of that comes from the pan itself and both sides. And we'll get on that side too. So the whole point of these videos is to show you this frame as if you were standing here next to me and inspecting it. And clearly on a frame like this, it's discounted. It's discounted actually more than half of what we normally get for frames. So if you happen to call on this, it may or may not be available to whomever calls in the next couple of days. I am sending this out to a customer at least here today, and then if he decides yay or nay, will depend if we still have it or not. So I just say that, emphasize that, because some people will call months after and, hey, I'd like to save some money and I just want to reiterate, very, very seldom do we get frames like this. So it's nice we do, because it can meet a better budget for people. But we buy our Jeeps, we spend so much on them, we really try to be due diligent and not do this. This thing came out of Colorado. We don't salt our roads here, so it shouldn't have happened, but it's, like I said, poor maintenance. So, but the part on it, and it's the only part on it that came through, was right here. And I know I showed you this earlier, but for those who haven't seen it. So this is your lower control arm mount and your upper control arm mount. They kind of come together and sandwich here. And then right between it, and I gotta say, after all the times I have seen rust appear or bleed through or whatever you want to call it, this is usually not a very common place. First off, there's a big weld here, factory, and there's one here. So it's kind of good that it happened here, because you can clearly see, you can rebead, you can put some material back in, you can re-brace this if you like. Although I wanted to show you, we put a little bit of something on it the other day to kind of eat the paint away. It wasn't very good, obviously didn't do a very good job, but this is bare metal down here. So it's solid. I mean, this doesn't have any issues in the bottom part. And typically when these go, they rust out from the bottom out. So you can actually see down in there, and that's all bare metal and nice smooth, like nothing there. Obviously it's flipped over right now, so we'll flip it back over here in a second, but this is the easiest way to see this. So we're talking about 2 inches, 2.5 inches, and it definitely, could you install it and put it on and probably not notice? Yeah, you could. I wouldn't recommend it. You're already here. I would definitely, if nothing else, just re-weld this. I don't think it needs much else. You can see, like, thickness, like I said up here, is fine, but that's to each his own. Okay, so that's it. That's all the bad on it. And for that little thing, which isn't little, I know, I'm not trying to discount that. We discount it way down. So I always like to show underneath these because they can hide rust. This one's actually pretty dang clean. That one's still got a lot of paint underneath it, nice and smooth. This area loves to go. Usually even on a clean frame, this is an area that gets a lot of road rash from rocks coming up. It's where your gas tank skid mounts to. And on that note, we do have those parts. And those, if you have a rusty frame, are likely bad as well. So just keep that in mind. Those are expensive to ship. So we definitely can get one of those, and even a belly pan if you need it. That one's probably mediocre. It's okay. It's not blown out like they get. But we even get those even cleaner. So and the bolts are good up there for your threads. Those ones I would highly recommend, even with those being good, to replace them with a T-bar eliminator, because they do tend to be a bad area and breakage, even if in non-rusty areas. You can look online for that kit, and it's just a kind of a crummy design. Okay, and then you got to the back there, nice clean. There's no rust here, no rust here. Again, you got some oxidation, but no surface or scaling or anything. And then your back support's beautiful. This is not factory, and either is this side here. This was an extra. It was a hitch that somebody had welded on, and they weren't thinking very clearly, because in order to remove the tank, we had to cut that off. Now, I didn't finish having it cut. Part of the reason, because I seen that we were going to end up discounting this frame. So it is welded, not all the way through. You can see there, it's not there. See right there's the weld. So somebody can hack that off, or you can finish what they were doing. But if you do, I would highly recommend not doing what they did, because if you ever drop a fuel pump, break a fuel pump, you're going to have to cut the thing off to get it off. They weren't thinking on that one. So most of the studs on this frame, surprisingly, with that one thing, there's no other problems. That one's good. That one broke. We left a lot of material. There's almost an inch there to pull. Look at the holes for your mounts. On usually rusty frames, you'll get these wallowed out. And you can tell, like I said, this one frame is actually pretty clean other than that spot on it. Even on a frame I put up last night that was a grade A, the front one was pretty wallowed there, and that's pretty common. But okay, and then again, your holes here are good. And then back on this side, okay, no issues. That's what it should have looked like. There's no weakness here, no spots you can see. I don't know if you can see down in here. We scope them when we buy them, and that usually gives us a little bit of an indication, but you can't really scope them fully together. Kind of hard to get around everything. We rescope, and that's kind of where I kind of thought, oh, there might be an issue. Then once we washed it, it did pop up on that other side. So, okay. And again, underneath the buckets here, these are nice and clean. Okay, track bar mount, that's clean. And that's your exhaust hanger in the back. Okay, so they're not very heavy. They're more awkward than anything. I'm gonna see if I can do this one-handed. I probably can. Down there, not right. Okay, so here's your top half. And as you can see already, almost all the paint's intact on the top of this thing. I know that a lot of people repaint these. It's a big project. I don't mean ever to emphasize it, not necessarily to repaint this thing. I just love the fact that you can still find some of the original paint on our frames, and on our real clean ones, look like a lot of times they look like they roll off the assembly line. So your mounts for your steps there, this is the early style steps. If you happen to have like a 2000, they're gonna be the same step. I actually use those steps all the way up to 06 from 97 to 06. They just changed the brackets on them. So if you happen to have the hook brackets, we can sell you those. If yours are good, we can swap them out for you. Typically, again, it's kind of like the belly pans. They're usually rotted on yours. So if you need steps or want to add steps, I think I might have one set of early ones. Okay, the buckets here, you got a little bit of corrosion on the top of them, but still super solid, no cracking on any of those. And if it wasn't for flipping this frame and showing you that, you can't even see that it's got an issue on either side of these guys. Okay, oh, that's where we sandblasted. So if you do sandblast it, you can, the sun's kind of in our way right now, but I mean, that's what I mean. Like, this is all oxidation, and the easiest way to tell something's oxidized is to get it sandblasted. If it comes out smooth, like a baby's butt there, that's good. If it was really surface rust, this would be nice and pitted up for you, not smooth as butter there. So that's really good. This whole frame will clean up nice. You got a little bit of scaling in here, coming up right there in the center, but This bracketry setup is really strong the way they build them, so it takes a lot of abuse. It has to, because the coil spring goes up in there, so not really anything. I would get down in here with a, if you're gonna do soda blast, sandblast, something like that, or at least get in here and get any of that away and then treat it. Okay, so questions, comments, concerns, 303-666-9020. PartsBreakers.com. This was just a little bit of mud. I thought when I washed it, it was all off, but let's put it down in mud. So, okay, crossbear, sorry. And yes, we do measure our frames. We try to buy them, well, I would say 90% of everything we buy out of here is unwrecked, but still, we always run Carfaxes for 2 reasons. One, just to pop up if there's has ever been any kind of accidents on there. You know, they're not always recorded, but a lot of times they are. And then second reason is we just look forward to make sure the Jeeps never spend any time east of us, east of Colorado. So we don't buy any Jeeps out of the East Coast, Midwest. It's our market to sell to, but nothing to buy. There's just nothing left of them out there. Even with a little bit of time spent out there, they just don't last. And coastal areas you got to watch too. We buy a lot out of California, but all inland California and Nevada. As long as it's southern, you don't want to go too far north. And then, of course, Arizona and then Colorado. And that's about it. Unfortunately, every other state uses a decent amount of solvent. So, all right. So, again, we're in Grand Junction, Colorado. That trailer was supposed to be loaded yesterday. It's not. I've been trying to fill as much as I can. This is not a very long trip for me. I just went all the way out to Maine in August. So, that was a much longer trip. Plus, I broke down in New Jersey. I don't even get to bring my big truck because that's the truck that transmission went out on. I haven't had time to fix it. So, going to be my little truck with my 30-foot. And I can definitely help unload stuff to an extent. I would tell you, if you end up being at the end of the line for frames, for example, they're going to get stacked. They stack really well. If I know that you don't have any equipment and we're not going to have any hands, I'll do my due diligence to try to make it so it's on the very bottom or not stacked. And actually, I said that totally backwards. So the top frame is, or tub, and the tubs we don't stack anymore, but the top frame is the one that comes off first. As we go, we unload. And so if you are towards the end, you might luck out. And end for us on this trip is probably going to be about Pittsburgh-ish area. I do have one going to Maine, and I have had a couple requests for Virginia, but I'm really not trying to make this that long of a haul, and I'll do another one come the fall and try to hit all the way out there. But in the meantime, if you happen to catch this video and you like what you see, or want to see what else we have, reach out, because we will have that main shipment is going to be picked up here in the next couple weeks, so we'll have another load there. Then we do them with hot shots. The hot shot is a little bit more expensive. I just do it kind of as a courtesy thing. I just do a 500 flat rate when I take things out, and it doesn't matter if you order one thing or 5 things. I'll do it for the same price. Whereas my hot shots usually are $750 to the same area I'm going to, and then anything else added, they just add on a little bit extra. So, all right. So again, there's your top. I don't think I went over this. Or that's kind of how they usually look there. But that'll clean up real nice. Yeah, look at this yard. 7 acres. Okay. Now, I mentioned skid plate. I mentioned gas tank skids. Obviously, we do tubs as well. So anybody that may need a tub out there, I have basically, this one has been sold. I do have a JK 4-door available. This red tub is going to Canada. That's actually part of the reason I'm going on this trip. And I got a couple left in the yard. There's a white one there. That one was a little jacked up. The girl who drove that was a granddaughter of a local guy. They endoed. Well, not really endoed. She came off of a cliff face. Lucky she lived. That was kind of a crazy thing. And all it did is break the axle, which is nuts. But anyway, I do have a couple. There's a couple of these have sold, but there's probably 3 or 4 TJ tubs over here. And there is a difference between 97 and 06. So you got 97, 01, you got 02, and then you got 03, 06. Now they're very compatible with each other. They'll all bolt on to the same frame, or vice, in any of the ranges on that side. So the bottom's the same. They change the firewall slightly from a different heater box, and then they also change the rear seat in them. And I'm not going to go into that too much because I have a really nice lengthy video on what those differences even are. So you can check out that if you're interested. But usually I just say, call us, give us your year when it comes to a tub. And that's the first thing we'll go after. Now, if you're looking for like, hey, I only want to buy one if it's white, and then I might try to say, okay, let's go into a different year because I happen to have a year and if paint's going to save you, and paint is expensive, I realize. So, okay, so but there is some options for tubs at the moment. And I do have a couple tub spots left. Frames I can stack another 10 on. Tubs, I'm kind of limited. So keep that in mind. I think we probably can fit another 3 or 4 tubs. I probably will have room, I'm assuming, because I'm about ready just to kill the phone. So I think I'll probably answer phones till about midday tomorrow as far as taking orders on this particular trip, and then I'll have to cut it off because what will happen is I will load. Again, I kind of load as things come off, right? So if I have somebody that adds on to the very end and that should have been on the bottom, it makes it very difficult. I have to redo everything, and then it's just this ongoing thing. And I know that sounds bizarre, but I could tell you, and my guys would vouch for, so my wife, that I have been literally pulling out the driveway here, get a call, pause, reverse, and, you know, I mean, gas isn't free, time is never get back, so we do try to make the most of these. I got to leave my family, my little boy's 4 and my little girl's 1. So it's important for me to get this as full as we possibly can, and also to help out whatever, you know, whoever's out there. Instead of having to say, hey, Hot Shot will be out in a couple weeks, I can say, hey, I'm going to be on your door next Wednesday or whatever it ends up being. So, all right, thank you so much. Again, have a great weekend.